Good afternoon, everybody. Come on, come on. Good afternoon, everybody. You know, Harris said he had the toughest job right before lunch. I think this is a little bit harder. People get a little sleepy. Grab some coffee. Couple things that I observed here. Number one, I love, maybe it's the old consultant in me, right? Looking at asset utilization. What do you do with the theater during the day? Now I know. And then the other thing that's interesting, and we're going to get these recordings, right? This is to my daughter, Tori, who's at USC studying film in a master's program. I'm the first one to be on the silver screen, baby. Love you, T. So I'm going to take you guys through our journey at the company I work at today called RDoc, our value journey. And it's going to be kind of interesting because it's a little convoluted to get there, but I think we're figuring it out. And I literally just got approval a couple weeks ago to launch a cross-functional team to go get this done. So here's kind of the outline of what I'm going to go over. I got a quick introduction. I got some questions I want to ask all of you because I want to get to know you better. I'll introduce RDoc. I'll try to explain what enterprise architecture is. That's what we do. I'll use the term, is that me? I'll use the term EA for short because sometimes you can get tongue-tied on enterprise architecture. I'll talk to you about what I observed and some of the challenges we have around what is value and what is success with our customers. Tell you a little bit about what I think we need to do on it and just some ideas as we move forward, how we're going to make it happen. So first, show of hands, how many people recognize Jerry Maguire? All right, good. You're going to like it later. About 15 minutes when you guys are all falling asleep, I'm going to wake you up big time. Next question. Let's see. So how does your leadership team, your CEO, see customer success at your company? Are you a cost center? Ooh, good. All right. A revenue protector. All right. You got some work to do with that crew. And then quarter revenue growth is probably some people aren't sure then, because I got less, I think, on that one than the first one. All right, but that gives me something to work with. Next one. Oh, I think I missed one. Yeah, how do your customers view your customer success team? Oh yeah, are those the guys who helped me out with onboarding a while ago? A couple of people, okay. Number two, yeah, I see those guys around renewals and maybe a few times in between, but not many. No, that's good. And then helping me build my business case and demonstrating value. All right, I like it. That's great. And then the last question, which I think I know the answer is, how many of you have any idea what enterprise architecture is? No clue? Yeah, a lot. Heard about it, but what is it really? Okay, something out there. And then, know it, love it, practitioner, my best friend is an enterprise architect, etc. And that's what I thought, nobody. Okay, so I'll try not to belabor that too much. So now that I know you guys a little bit better, first about me, I've been in enterprise software my whole career. You can go on LinkedIn and check it out. Had a number of interesting experiences from some really big companies to some small companies. Start off in professional services. I've run support teams, CS teams. At RDoc today, I have all post-sales activities, including expansion sales. So I have a professional services team, support team, a CS team, of course, and just brought a woman in who's helping with customer experience as well, because we were a little bit too focused on our own internal goals and not on the customer. But all the other facts about me you can go look up later on. So RDoc is a 9-year-old company out of Oslo, Norway. They built this enterprise architecture tool from the ground up as a complete SaaS play. I think out of 300 and some odd customers, we have one small US government entity that's perpetual. And the R&D team, was kicking and screaming when they brought that deal in a year or so ago. We just raised a bunch of money from a couple investors. So we have a bunch of new friends who are very interested in how we're doing our business, which is a real benefit, I think, into helping us grow. The tool is really a good tool. It's a very, very flexible tool. So when you go to use it, and I'll get to that in the next slide, you can model just about anything. So there's a nice opportunity there as well. We are a leader in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, and my customer excellence team, which is what we dubbed ourselves, that whole broad group, is only a little over a year old, right? So they put it in place. I've been on board for 9 months. They put it in place at the end of last spring. So before that, if you were on that team, you would take a couple support calls in the morning. You do onboarding in the afternoon. If you had time, you do renewals. And so now we split that into 3 different functions. Still working on the differentiation of the roles and whatnot as we continue to mature. Oops. So what is enterprise architecture? So it's a modeling tool where you can inventory and gather information about the people, the processes, and the technologies that you have, and really create, if you want to use this overused term, a digital twin of your company. Why would you want to do that? Modeling some of those interrelations, you can actually affect a lot of different change programs. The tool is very flexible, as I said, but it also has some great graphics. So you can actually visualize the interdependencies and understand that this system is supporting these 3 business processes, and these people are the people who are dedicated to those business processes. You can track competencies of those individuals. You can track adjacencies in your software so that you can see security vulnerability if you get, let's say, a penetration in one system. You know which systems are right next to it. So there's a lot of different things you can do there. And our tool is very, very open-ended. So I actually think we have the ability to be more of a platform, whereas some of our competitors focus in 1 or 2 specific problems that they solve. But I pulled the last bit of this deck off of some of the things that you would find on our competitors' websites, on our websites. You look at all those, and you can tell exactly what we do, right? IT governance, okay. Digital twin, all right, what's that mean? Compliance. And so part of the challenge that I've had is kind of discerning and getting our team to boil down, what are we really doing? What are clients really doing with our software? Because if we can't figure that out, we can't really judge them as being successful. So get into another slide or 2. And this is a good one. So we have this like really loyal base of enterprise architects. And I was with our CEO a couple weeks ago, and I said, but Eric, we're just talking to the specialists. We're not speaking with the business leaders, people who are writing the checks, people who are making decisions. And he goes, yeah, I know, but we weren't always that way. We didn't always have the expertise in the enterprise architecture space, even though we had this great tool. So we've come a long way, and that was good for me to kind of realize this is a continuum we're on. But I said, we're still just kind of speaking EA. And so if we have a client who knows they need an EA tool, then that's easy, because we can speak the language, the tool is really robust, and usually they'll go that way. Sometimes we actually go to market and we're selling a client on why they need the discipline of enterprise architecture. That's a hard sell, right? Well, what am I going to get out of it? Well, IT compliance and visibility, and I'm listening to some of these sales calls in November when I first joined. I'm kind of shaking my head. And I read through all of our case studies that we had from a marketing perspective, and I didn't see anything that showed any dollar and cent savings, any improvement in revenue, et cetera. But I looked at it as an opportunity, because I figured with all those post-sales assets and responsibilities, I can kind of mold it together, and this is why I'm part of why I'm here today. A lot of times, too, we're obviously, a lot of companies are like this, too, are stuck in function and feature mode. We're not talking about solutions. We're not talking about business value. And then the definition of success was an interesting one. I had one of my better CSMs, Dwayne, I have a quarterly business review coming up, and I want to take you in with me, or Zoom with me at the time, and they really want to meet you, hear what you have to say. I'm like, okay, great. So I got into the meeting. In this individual's defense, they did try to do a prep with me, but I had something else got scheduled. I figured, I'll just follow the success plan, the agenda. There's no agenda. And the meeting literally consists of, so how's it going? I was like, oh boy. So, but we didn't really define success. And as I said, this team had morphed out of a jack of all trades So my CSM group was kind of like super support people. Hey, you have any trouble using the tool? Is there any questions we can take back to support for you? So I knew we needed to change that. The usage patterns are really weird here because you'll see a whole bunch of activity as you build out the model. So we can see all that going on. Then you see some shifts in activity to a lot of views, a lot of pulling information to convince executives of a change program. And then sometimes it goes into a little bit of a lull. And we weren't really using that information. The other point that's really interesting too, in the discipline I have found out, I have no enterprise architecture background other than the last 9 months, which is I think a good thing for me in my role. Complexity does not always equal value. So there's a real balancing act that you have to do in reviewing how deep you go into and how much detail when you do these models. You need enough detail to provide value, but I've seen some clients that just get down this rabbit hole of like adding so much value and complexity in so many different attributes that they bog themselves down. One of our competitors actually charges on the objects that you put in there. And we had a debate, we just redid our pricing strategy, and I'm like, I don't think that equates to value, does it? No, it just equates to complexity. So that's a tough aspect as well. We created these use cases. And it took me a while to figure out that what it really was how do you build a model, not what do you do with it, not how do you provide value to your customers. And we had hired some really good enterprise architects, and there's still a little bit of conflict going on as we're moving forward with this value program because we need to fit all those pieces together. So what was the answer? Well, I'm a pretty simplistic person, so I thought about what keeps me up at night, and it's a few pretty simple items that you can classify in just 3 different ways. But then I thought about Jerry Maguire a little bit, and Jerry's character was a sports agent, and he kind of went sideways with one of his most trusted customers. And he was talking about, hey, I got you on this team, and your life's going to be that much better. And this is the conversation they had afterwards.
Here it is. Show me the money.
Was looking good, but I think I'm taking too long. Back to the spot for a Glock. I took a loss over floss, but still got a knock.
Money! Jerry, does that make you feel good just to say that? Say it with me one time, Jerry.
Show you the money.
Oh, no, you can do better than that, Jerry. I want you to say it with meaning, brother. Hey, I got Bob Sugar on the other line. I better hear you say it.
No. Show you the money.
Not show you. Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Yeah. Louder.
Show me the money.
That's it, brother, but you got to yell that shit.
Show me the money.
I need to feel you, Jerry.
Show me the money.
Jerry, you better yell. Show me the money.
So I originally took that out of the deck when I saw where we were at today. I had to put it back in. I hope I don't owe Tom Cruise royalty now. So being a simple person, but also having run some pretty big P&Ls, like what do I care about? What do CEOs, what do CIOs care about? Well, it's really, what are you doing to enhance revenues for me? How are you helping me be more efficient so I reduce my costs? And then more and more today, risk mitigation is important, right? On compliance issues, you got GDPR over in Europe, you got security issues, et cetera. We took this a little further, but it's kind of interesting. If you look at some of the things in each of these buckets, I'll just use one for example. Controlled run costs. Well, that still is not that specific to me. What was his name? Ashvin from LinkedIn, right? If he's still here, I want that client's name because one of the best use cases or best business challenges that we have is called application rationalization. So he talked about those 25 project management pieces of software. You model that in RDoc and then figure out a plan on how you simplify your footprint, right? Save a lot of money. I actually had one client who showed me a peek of the cost of all their applications. Big client, over $14 million. And I know some clients who have done that rationalization have saved 10, 12, 15%. I mean, that's a lot of years of ACV that we could save clients, right? That's the equation I want to be able to put together. There's a lot of things on the right, as I mentioned before, with security and regulatory compliance. You've got different industries have their own compliance issues today. And then on the left-hand side, let's say I want to go into a new market. Well, do I have all my supply chain processes and systems ready to go? Do I have the right people in place? Do I have all the supporting things I need to get into that new market? So this is where we're starting to look to define, and I told everybody, if we have a business challenge and I can't explain in one of these 3 buckets what it does for the company, I don't want to sell it. I don't want to lead selling it, all right? And compliance, okay, everyone needs compliance, but that's not going to get people excited. These buckets will get folks excited. And then the more we got into it, and the more I was going back and forth with some of our enterprise architects, I realized that we had this bottom level, and we had these use cases. How do you build the model? How do you build it out? How much detail do you go into? What attributes do you add to your personnel, to your systems, et cetera? But we skipped the above 2 layers, particularly the middle one. So what am running now with the team, this cross-functional team I have, let's go and define what these business challenges are and define the outcomes we want to measure in each and every case. And those outcomes have to fit into those 3 buckets that I mentioned earlier. It's really important you do this. I've been with companies where you get too focused with the specialists who know the technology and get into the technology side of things. And I believe that we can create this value chain and these linkages so that we can get respect with the enterprise architects because we know how to build the model, but also we can help them to explain to their stakeholders what those results are going to be. I've had churn where someone would say, well, why did they I said, why did they churn? Dwayne, the whole enterprise architecture, the 1 leader and the 4 people underneath him got fired. Oh, why'd that happen? They weren't demonstrating value. So if we can do this for ourselves, we can also help our customers with it. So this is an interesting thing, and this is why I think we have the ability to become a platform, which is kind of rare. So on the left, the first star of the circle is you operationalizing Model 1. You like this? This is our new Infinity model. And we had marketing working on it for about 8 weeks. It was great. But that's kind of business challenge number 1. And then once you get that up and running, you're into this business as usual, run the program. What I want to be able to do is push people back to the left again. Let's go solve another business challenge. You've already modeled your systems, your adjacencies, your data flows. So you have your application rationalization plan in place, and you're starting to save money there. Let's add hardware to it, and we can come up with a cloud migration plan that'll save you money on your hardware costs and mitigate some risks. So my goal is to take this forward and to build kind of a heat diagram of which business challenges you should go to from one to the next. So that when my CSMs go in and we see that pattern of, wow, they banged out, a lot of activity banging out a model, a lot of time on viewing things. Now we know that they're kind of in the mode on the right-hand side. Let's start a new program using RDoC to solve another problem. This may look familiar to you, but I'm going to affect this across the whole company. So I want to make sure that our marketing case studies have those defined outcomes in them. Some of it we can guesstimate today. Some of it we want to go out and do some market research. But then I want us to sell with those, position those with clients early on the sales cycle. I have to make sure that when the onboarding services start and we go into the activate phase, that we're not asking the client again, so what do you want to get done? Right? We got to pass that information along. I'm sure a few of you guys have seen that before. Consultant team or onboarding team gets in and, what did the sales guy say? We want that guy on the phone. But then we refine that value, reiterate it, and go through this cycle, and then start all over again. So it's a pretty broad undertaking, but I think it's going to be exciting for us moving forward. And then just a couple points here. You can take this slide and take some thoughts on these. But the one thing that I've been very, very focused on, because I do have this enterprise architect mindset within the company. And, my enterprise architects, they don't talk about revenue and cost savings and risk mitigation. My answer to that is, well, maybe they should be. But I believe we can talk to both constituents, the practitioners, the specialists, as well as the decision makers. If we can do that well, we'll distance ourselves from the competition, because this whole challenge that I've been talking about today is not just unique to my company, RDoc. It's unique to the whole space. All our competitors are all kind of struggling. They're coming at this issue from different angles. Focus on the why. Why do I want this tool? How's it going to improve my organization? And then I have a few pet peeves on the middle one, measure what matters. I'm a big proponent of capturing those outcomes in your software. And the guy who runs product for us, Ian, as soon as I went through this thing, I said, Ian, we've got to try to include these results in the software so that I can see it, so my CSMs can see it, and when it goes down or something, we can go say to the client, what's going on? And since we do control some of the predefined meta models, he's like, yeah, I'm going to include that in there. I think it's really important to have those values handy so that you can measure them and measure trends on them. There's a quick note on proxy for value that's pretty interesting. Just go to supply chain example. We would have forecast accuracy, right? You had stuff going in and out of stores, you'd replenish it, you'd put a forecast in. The next week you'd say, okay, we put in this forecast, we sold this stuff the week after, how accurate was the forecast? Unless you had the inventory module and the store operations module, you didn't necessarily know that your inventory went down, which is the end goal, and you didn't know that you had no stockouts in the store. We had some customers that had all the software so we could see it. But forecast accuracy was a good proxy. So if your forecast accuracy went way up and your inventory didn't drop, then there's something else going on you had to take care of. So sometimes you have to look for a proxy. And then be concise. For me, like 2 variables is too many almost, and 3 would be a vast exception. I've seen reports like, we have 30, 40, 50 variables we're looking at. It's way too much. And then I think the rest of it is self-explanatory, because I want to get open up for Q&A. But the last piece is, I think, really kind of interesting. And I don't know how many of you are familiar with what ServiceNow does, but in their early days, it's just basically kind of a system that a support team would use. You log in calls, hey, I got this problem, how do I fix it? And they got a lot of information on how a lot of different businesses performed with their number of calls to finish off an issue, the number of days it took, et cetera. And they started to put some benchmarks together. Oh, you're at the bottom quartile of the consumer electronics companies like you. I got to look into that. So you can really leverage that into some value. Anyhow, I want to leave plenty of time for questions. So if we can open it up, I appreciate you guys spending the time with me to listen.
Hey, excellent, Dwayne. That's pretty solid, and I like that clip of Jerry Maguire there. One of the things that invoked in me is sentiment. I was wondering how would sentiment analysis play into this. The model that you just presented, and is there a place for something like that?
I think it has to be a part of it. That's probably a phase 2, phase 3 issue, because I think just getting the base things down. You could see how we're still in some of those business challenges. We're still trying to paint a very broad umbrella. I want to get really specific in our measurements as well. And then I think as we move forward and learn from that, then we can start to bring that into the sentiment into play.
Excellent, very cool. So let's take some questions. Where can we go with the questions here? We'll go with you.
Hi, so I get really nerdy in technology and stuff like that, so I'm going to quiz you here.
Uh-oh.
Okay? So whenever it's determining these different types of softwares or processes and things like that, how is it determining what to keep and what to get rid of, to save that 15%? Like, is there a determination, like
That's my next evolution, too, in my professional services group. So I've hired a few people who have been on a more consultative background from other competitors, but also other companies. And what are the parameters? So if I have 5 CRM systems, am I going to make it just on cost, right? There's a change management component to it too. So how many people are you actually going to have to retrain? In some cases, there's security issues where one of the solutions has a few dicey things in it. There may be a bunch of customizations. I really applaud Salesforce because they did a wonderful job of surrounding themselves with hooks and into every little cranny in your business. So there's a lot of different things you can look at there in order to make the best decision. And that's kind of one of the things I want to do as we get into next year. I mean, I basically took a few onboarding folks and have turned it into about a dozen-person consulting team, and that's on our to-do list.
Okay, so whenever a client is like onboarded and everything, theoretically we're going and building all of this, right? So does the client and the business get to take what's priority, right? So we're talking about client sentiment, and they have tools that are utilized for client sentiment and things that they've deemed is higher importance versus, if you have just a standard approach at measuring what type of benchmarks and cost savings. Obviously, certain CEOs are going to want to spend more money to, hey, we're really big into client sentiment. We want to spend more money here.
Yeah.
That's our top priority versus, it may cost us the most, but at the end of the day, hey, that's what keeps our lights on, right?
Well, it's interesting because, if I look at the use cases we developed, which are, again, building out the model, we developed kind of a technical heat map based on what was the easiest to get to the next business problem. But that next business problem that was the easiest to model may not be in line with what's important to your business. So, if you're very risk adverse and have had some problems with compliance, and you have a cost-saving initiative which is easier to build with the model, maybe you build a harder one that's going to add another layer of help on your compliance side. So there's a whole series of things around the strategic intent of the company, which is why I put that highest level bucket up there so that we keep that in consideration as we direct clients forward. Yeah, thanks.
Next question. Anyone? No? Well, Dwayne, I'm going to follow up with another question. I saw that slide that you had where you had the CEO on the top and then the second layer and the third layer. And I noticed there was only one box on that, I would say like a corporate priority or core priority, right? Can you just explain how you take that and make it down to a CSM to say this activity you do is that one for that C-level person?
Yeah, I mean, I actually have about 7 slides with top level, corporate strategic outcomes and then what that means at the next couple of levels. But I think it's always important for the CSMs and even our BDRs and new salespeople to understand what's going on at the company, right? We have one company, I really like these guys, they do a lot of acquisitions. So you do a lot of acquisitions, what are you doing? You're like doing a lot of integration work and you have 5 CRM systems that you have to get rid of. So keeping that in mind as you go in, you'll know what's important for that company. Other companies are going to be more affected by the recession and they're into cost-cutting mode. So understanding at that highest level where that company's going is really important. And then, from there, understanding those execution business challenges that the CEO and the decision makers are working on, it should roll up underneath that. So my goal is to get this all defined, at least a framework, the next 6-8 weeks, and then start to roll out business challenges in that middle level. And that middle level is really what we've been missing.
Very cool. Thank you, Dwayne. Appreciate it. If there's no other questions, we'll move on to the next session.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Dwayne.
Back in time. And if any of you have gone further than we have on this, I'd love to hear about it because I'm sure we're going to hit some potholes. But thank you.